that magical sound of the Zoom lady saying recording is in progress. It is Monday, June the 2nd, 2025, the year of our Lord. Where has all the time gone? I don't know, but we are back with another episode of Make City Make Spence. It has been 3 weeks since the three of us have gathered, which was a special episode with Dave Dwahey and Danny Evans to preview what was the then start of the W League season. That's now 40% of the way through. We'll talk about that later on. But Garret Comat's here as always, not alone. First off, going through the introductions, the namesake, the brainchild of the Majors Detroit, the architect, the engineer, one of the hardest working supporter in the Detroit City FC game. I can name a whole lot of things. And Sergio's pest control extraordinaire, Adam Hernandez. How are you this evening, good sir?
I'm good. I'm good.
And can't do this without the namesake of Make City Make Spence, keeper of the pizza mines, architect of the Words About Shapes Patreon. Seriously, folks, $3 a month, the best $3 a month you can spend. And the weather's getting warmer. I'm associate because we have the father of heat, Sean Spence.
Oh
How
dear.
are you, good sir?
The weather is not my fault. Okay, I didn't do that. Yeah, I'm good, ish. Honestly, the weekend was a little rough. I was hoping for a competitive Champions League final, and we got the least competitive Champions League final in history.
Yeah.
And then City capitulated in a devastating way to a lower division team on the road. And it was up to the women again to kind of save the weekend, which they did. And we'll get to that.
So you brought up a good point about the men. We for smart reasons decided the last episode we recorded was to be a special interview only. So in fact, the last time we talked about Detroit City FC's men, which is our opening bit tonight, was May the 4th, after a 2-2 draw at Indy 11, a 2-2 draw by way of blowing a 2-0 lead. At the time, the three of us were kind of hopeful, still optimistic that this was, just a little blip, and we're about to see brighter days. I should have realized that this is also what happened in May last year, May of 2024, where we did not technically win in regulation or extra time in any of our competitive matches in all competitions. We only advanced via penalties against Houston Dynamo. How was this May, you would ask? After that 2-2 draw, a 4-0 elimination from U.S. Open Cup at the hands of Chicago Fire in front of 600 or so Detroit City supporters in Bridgeview, followed by a sluggish 0-0 draw at Hartford Athletic a few days later. 8 days later, blowing a 1-0 lead at Birmingham Legion late, 1-1 draw. First home loss of the year after taking the lead in the first couple of minutes Memorial Day weekend at home to Charleston Battery, a 3-1 loss. And as Sean mentioned, Match day 2 of the Jägermeister League Cup, which I think is also seen sponsored by Tito's Vodka. Fuck, that's a lot of booze.
It's like just a come on, come all, like.
And in front of a few traveling Detroit City faithful, including Channel 451 Tunnel Talk Zone Alan Jacobson, Detroit City FC allowed Portland Hearts of Pine to basically, slice through our midfield like a knife through hot butter and lobster rolls. How bad, you ask? 4-2 to final in favor of Hearts of Pine, a winless May. Gentlemen, May seems to suck for us, but let me ask, is this just that, or are we going down the highway to the danger zone here? Sean, I'll have you go first, and then Adam.
I mean, I am concerned, deeply concerned. It was something we've talked about in the background between us, but we haven't really brought onto the show. Is there seems to be a lot of turmoil in the locker room right now, and the turmoil is, centering on the fact that the gaffer, Danny, doesn't really communicate with the players as to what they're doing wrong or what they're doing right, or so everything turns into sort of a papal mystery, where you kind of have to just hope you're figuring out what he's thinking. And when you're the problem is that when you're a player who suddenly loses cachet, like say you're Michael Bryan and you're just not on the plane to go to Portland, Maine for no reason. Um, does Danny say, "Hey, listen, here's what I'm seeing"? Like he's either saying it's fatigue or form or something like it, that is traditionally the way it's handled at Detroit City. Ben, like we talk about Ben and Trevor being very different, but they were very similar along those lines, where they're communicators with the players, and the process of building a team was always considered to be a group effort of the players and the technical staff, that everyone is trying to knit this together. And there are many different ways to skin a cat, right? And the way Danny seems to prefer to skin a cat is to kind of that more traditional Mister vibe, where he's a remote personage, kind of a mountaintop, and the players just got to figure it out, which results in a lot of like weirdness, and especially with players who have been here a while, um, the change of expectation, where you can't kind of rationally talk out what's going right and what's going wrong, is a big shift. Um, and I worry that what we're seeing is the locker room knitting together, and then Danny making inexplicable moves that maybe are explicable, but that he does not deign to explain to us or to the players or to any of the other stakeholders, except maybe like a millionaire who's in a room with them during a meeting, right? Um, no one gets to know his thoughts, basically, and that creates a lot of difficulty within the playing staff, because they don't know, while they understand the game and they understand what their role is, they feel, I think, that at times they're being punished, or feel as if they're being punished because their playing time is being reduced, and they don't really know what led to that outcome. And that is a big shift, because, you know, Tiffany was kind of part of the technical staff under Trevor, and there was a constant communication about what you want out of your life, what you want out of your day, what you want out of this, and like a constant sort of effort to fold those desires into the shape of the overall thing. And it seems now that we've come to a pass where there's a little bit more contempt for the idea that the individuals, that keeping them happy, or um, you know making the most of their potential is anyone's business but their own. Like that's something it's very um, modern capitalism, right? It's like rugged individualism as football. Well, you fucking figure it out, bitch. That's kind of the underlying ethos of everything. And I'm going to go out and say that I don't like it. I do not like it. This is not the kind of club that we want this to be. And I get that there are many different ways to do this. But I hope that Mr. Dikio can, think hard now about his approach, and think hard about whether it is producing the results that he thinks it should produce, whether we are performing to the level of our talent or not. And if not, I think that it's time for some rugged individualism to happen at the leadership level, where they figure themselves out and don't just pivot to the players and say, well, you're blowing it for us, To me, our confidence evaporated in the second half of Indy 11 as soon as they pressed us man to man, and we realized that our build out plan absolutely would not work against a man to man press, which meant that the next week we saw it again and again gave up a goal, and that we have kind of crumbled after that, because we were trying to be a possession team, a team that controls the match, a team that controls the game. And we've had to kind of go away from keeping the ball as much, because we can't pass through midfield. We can't pass through a press. We don't have press-proof midfielders, I'm kind of scared for the rest of the season, because I don't know where the help is going to come from unless Lajop miracles himself back healthy and is available in a couple weeks. Because I have a feeling that, even if he's healthy now, that it's going to take him till August to really be ready to play. And at the way we are playing now, we will be, in seventh or eighth place in the East by then. Like, we are giving up goals to absolutely everybody in a way that we haven't done, except for that dark period in 2023 in the fall, where we got torched at Phoenix, and kind of we went through that period where we're sort of reeling and gave up 4 or 5 goals in 2 or 3 matches. And this feels like that, where we're they're kind of stumbling and got to catch themselves. And I don't know. I mean, I am speaking out of my anxiety about this because it feels to me like this team is falling apart, and the weaknesses within the roster have been ruthlessly exposed. And until you find a way to solve that, no one in the league has any motivation to do anything but keep fucking you with the same stick that's been inserted up to now. So,
Adam, I want to get you in because if for those that haven't, we've been taking a break. 451 Tom Talk's been putting out regular episodes. Great episode last week to all the gang. You made some great points along with everybody about where we were at around the time. That was even before what the fuck we witnessed on Saturday. I want to get some of your takes on there and see if you feel if anything's kind of shifted a little bit from what you guys were talking about last week.
First I want to say I love that Sean kind of brought in some of the obscure political talk when it comes to that rugged individualism and capitalism. And I always had this thought in my head, and now's my chance to convey it because I never get the opportunity to. But it doesn't have anything to do with soccer. So just give me a second here.
All right.
I always think that because this is a way anarcho-capitalism, right, Sean? Is this what we're dealing with right now?
Yeah, I think so.
And I always say that anybody who ever says they're an anarcho-capitalist who isn't actually a capitalist, because the people who say that they're capitalists aren't actually capitalists. They're actually just workers who sit there and simp for capitalists because they are under some impression that they too can one day be a billionaire. People who say they're anarcho-capitalists are actually individual anarchists. There's social anarchists and there's individual anarchists. Because whenever you talk to those people, what they usually say is oh, I just want to go out and live in the woods and be by myself and just don't want to be bothered by anybody. Well, that's an individual anarchist. That's not actually an anarcho-capitalist. That's an individual anarchist. So anyways, I'll continue here.
God damn, that was brilliant.
Yeah. Is it Make City Make Spence or Wobbly Workshop? We're not sure. Let's get it popping.
Jeremy Church is definitely going to comment this on the YouTube for sure.
I just hope Mazina isn't listening right now because that's
good fucking God.
That's gonna be that'll probably be a discussion.
I think it's really interesting what Von Mises says about this topic. No, it's not.
Yeah, Mazzino will catch me at the next match and talk with me about my view on anarcho-capitalist versus individual anarchists. But anyways,
please tell me when you do the edit of this, the anthem of the USSR is going to be playing in the background slowly as you're talking about this.
No, I love Mazzino. I'll talk to him about it though.
Yeah.
But
when I made the Von Mises joke, I guarantee he's like, "Ah, you bitch," he's not angry right now. He's like, "Oh, you fuckers."
I do, because on 451 last week, and we mentioned it. I don't have a problem with them not playing Michael Bryant. I thought that they needed to do something different in that sense, and they did. I thought that because Garrett, you brought it up, and I think we were on a phone call one time, and you were talking about how like everybody in the starting 11, everybody on this roster at one point was rotated, except for Michael Bryant.
Yep.
And
Going
I
into
thought,
Saturday's game, he had started every single match.
and I thought,
All
and it
counts.
was certainly time for him to take a break and maybe figure something else out for him because I don't think he's had a good stretch of games,
No.
and run of form. And I thought, he's versatile. Maybe he can be worked out in another part of the starting 11, or because I do think Michael Bryant has a piece. He has a place on this team and in this league, and that's something I said about Connor before, and I will echo those same sentiments for Michael Bryant as well. Now, to further piggyback off of what Sean was saying, if that isn't communicated to him, why he's not playing, why he's now getting rotated out of the lineup, why he's not even being brought to Maine, then yes, that is a problem. I think that everything that Sean was mentioning is absolutely 100% true. Um, I'm not a coach. I know Danny Dicchio and his technical staff has, and even you guys, on this podcast have much more soccer knowledge than I do. Um, However, I do know it seems like it's common sense that a good coach. I'm not saying anybody's a bad coach, but a good coach should be a good communicator as well. Um, And if you're not communicating to anybody, and that just goes to life too, whether you're playing soccer or working your 9 to 5, um, if you're not, if it's not being communicated to you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, then how is anything ever going to get any better? Now,
Yeah.
the plus side to all of this is yes, I think we still do have a deep team. We've seen we've seen what this squad can do earlier on in the season. Yes, it only the beginning of June. However, um, things can spiral really, really quickly, and before you know it, we are at the end of June, heading into July, and after
Right.
that, before you know it, we're in August, and it sucks to think about where this team could be at because they're going in that direction right now. And yes, they do have the opportunity to get things switched around and fixed and whatnot. But I mean, we have to see it. The most concerning thing about this was we haven't seen anything changed up or remedied these past few weeks to what the problems are on this
Right.
men's team right now. And that's
I
scary.
mean,
And that is
here's
really, really scary.
what
And
I'm worried about. Yeah, I'm sorry. What worries me about this is that the problems we've shown, um, which are not being able to play through press, basically. That's the big problem. I will say that I think they were doing different things against Portland. None of those things worked. This is the first time we played in a four all year, and the social media's lying to you. We don't play in a four. We played in a three every match until this week when we played in a four with Haruki and um, Alex on the flanks and Stevie and Devin in the middle. And watching the goals, like I'm not going to get all stuck into this over again, but there were turnovers. But really, honestly, like a couple of them looked to me like Stevie and Devin were kind of reacting like they were kind of playing as if they had more cover, and I wonder if the kind of mental sharpness that is necessary to play as a two-man center back pairing has kind of is not there because they just haven't done it. And you kind of are, you're mentally used to having that third guy who's sliding into cover when you've, donkey touched the ball to an attacking midfielder 35 yards from goal, as Stevie did for the second goal.
Especially ones who can fucking run, because that
Yeah.
Portland team had pace for days
They had a
and
lot
saw
of pace.
green
Well,
gas.
that's the other thing. We need to not take anything away from Portland because they saw what they could do against us, and then they went and fucking did it.
Yeah.
And
Credit to them.
Louisville has much of the same kind of threat, but couldn't find a way to bring it to bear against us. Now we were playing a three, and whatever. But it's the trend line that worries me. We played pretty well against Indy to take the lead, and then started turning the ball over and kind of crumbled, and then we've done that again and again and again, and it looks like it's starting to like just take a toll on everyone, right? Everybody's a little bit off and down. Darren's not putting the same kind of shots on goal that he was early in the year.
Good finish on Saturday, but it's kind of dried up compared to his earlier start.
I think he had three chances before that, and missed the goal, put one right at the keeper. That finish was off his thigh. It wasn't like a clean finish, but that's just where the ball was. Like, the base of the cross came in at like, testicle level, and he had to try to do something. So, kind of swerve yourself out of the way and put your thigh up there, and okay, good, that went in, nice.
Better than just the tip.
Yeah. Yes. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's not that like Danny's remoteness causes everybody to go into poor form, but my theory of the case is that like they're good at putting the pieces together, and they're good at kind of initially describing to everybody how they're going to play, right? And so that we've come into the season with a clear idea of who we are and what we're going to try to do, and it's been two slightly different ideas, right? It's not like it's always the same thing, so that's good. And we enter the season ready to play. But this is 2 years in a row now where we play like 5-6 weeks and then just kind of collapse for a while. Now last year it was Elvis getting hurt and Ali getting homesick, but like now you wonder like how much of Ali getting homesick was Ali going, this motherfucker hasn't looked me in the face for 3 weeks. Like, do I want to stay in a new country with a boss who like won't talk to me and like won't answer direct questions? Maybe not. Like, I don't know. I can tell you that if my boss treated me that way, I would be looking for another fucking job. If I went up and said, "Hey, I noticed I got a few hours. Is there something I'm doing wrong or right?" And he was just like, "Figure it out," and walked away, or didn't say anything and walked away. Huh? Like, this is their workplace. And I have a feeling that the theory is that the assistants are the one delivering the actual message, and that the coaching meetings is where Danny gives his he's like a mob boss who can't be seen giving instructions in public. He has to like have his consigliere do it and just sit there and go, if it goes right, he's like, I'm clearly a genius, and if it goes wrong, he's like, I don't know what that consigliere told him. What am I? I haven't talked to anybody. It is a way of putting an impact barrier between yourself and results, right?
You're bringing Godfather mentions into this, and Garrett's perking right up.
I'm just like, I'm trying to understand
leave the ball, take the midfield,
right? Like, I'm just trying to understand like what the theory of leadership is happening here, and I think it's probably, if he was forced to express it, which I'm guessing it was never going to happen because that's part of the, we're like into omerta territory here, but like probably the idea is that the answers are always within the player, and so the more you give them outside, the more you're kind of taking them away from what they really are, right? And that I think that's kind of the idea of that sort of coaching is like, okay, I'm not going to give you any answers. I'm just going to challenge you to find some answers, and like I'm serious about that. When you come to me frustrated because you feel like you are about to crash out of the pro game and you desperate for answers, I'm going to look at you and go, this is up to you to figure out. And that's it. Like you're on your fucking own, you know? And, um, you know, I get how you get there. I just think that, you know, in my world, I see enough cruel, you know, authoritarian, unanswerable philosophies being acted out in the public square, and I don't want them acted out on my football team. Um, you know, that's just how I feel. I don't
Yeah.
want I don't want the players for my football team that I love and that I've given my like, you know, literally like my hours and my soul to, right? Um, I don't want them to, you know, have a terrible workplace where like where wearing the badge is like, I mean, you know, where it's ambivalent because, you know, of the things we're talking about. I don't know. I mean, you know, I'm sure that there are people out there who are like, you're completely, this is all tea leaf reading or whatever, but, you know, uh, um, like all you got to do to stop the tea leaf reading is answer questions and speak directly to your players and the public. Like, you know, we'd be glad to have answers.
Yeah.
And then we could just, we probably, let's be honest, I'm probably going to pick at them, right? But you know, you're big boys. You can handle it, right? You're professionals. Like you're getting paid to do this. Like, come on now. You know, if somebody comes in and asks me questions about running the dominoes, uh, I better be able to answer them, right?
Hmm.
So I don't know. I I I find this whole, you know, play acting of remoteness to be just despicable on a personal level. Like it just feels like a scoundrelly way to live your fucking life. Um, and you know, I'm, you know, I'm a certain kind of person. I I vibe with Liverpool, right, and not England. If I'm going to England, I'm going to Liverpool, and I'm probably going to laugh about Manchester, right? Like that's where I am, right? That's and so you know, cards on the table. I just think that the world would be better if people were straightforward and honest. I know that that is a crazy idea that requires me to just have a childlike belief in the possibility of humans to self-evaluate, but you know, uh, here I am. uh, so I don't know.
I think we'll put a bow on the men because let's get to, there's been some joyous things in here, but I'm going to
Yeah,
bring back.
let's veer away from my existentialism.
Well, I want to bring. Actually, I'm going to. How I'm going to end this is I'm going to bring over a segment that I tend to do from time to time in the Hey I Track Frankfurt podcast, and and this is me going full on spectrum here, because I just find random bits and shit in like everything here. I call this fucked up stat time.
Fuck up that
Uh,
time.
yeah, so
Okay.
here's fucked up stat time. Friday, Maury Donor announced has been transferred to Oakland Roots. Played 30 or so minutes on Saturday in his first game with the Roots.
32.
Either a goal or involved in a team's own goal and an assist. In the month of May, Detroit City FC's men gave up 4 goals twice, 3 goals, um, and two. It was a handful. Just a lot of concessions. And I think back, and Adam, I've talked to you about this repeatedly, and I think I've mentioned this before, even the last time we talked about the men. I keep thinking back to what was said after we scored 3 goals in 4 minutes on the club's social media content that night in Phoenix. And it was something about Danny saying he was told the group and the coach was like, ourself and the coaching staff, we believe in you. You just got to believe in yourselves. Here's the problem. If they're not being communicated to, does this team believe in themselves? Does this team believe in the coaches and the message that they're giving out and the tactics? Because right now it doesn't fucking look like it does. And if it keeps going down this with these 4 matchups in June at Highmark against Pittsburgh Riverhounds, where other than that Dom Gasso magical strike October of 2013, we've played like shit there.
Yeah.
We're at Loudon next, who, surprise folks, they're actually pretty decent, despite all the turmoil that they've had as a club.
And
which
the way they're decent is by pressing the shit out of you.
Yep.
Like they're the kind of team that's going to cause us problem.
June 21st, home to Miami, who, guess what? They are kind of difficult now. They might be up for, they might see us and be like, you know what? Let's do some dark arts bullshit. Let's see if we can get something here. And then Jägermeister Cup at Hartford. So work to be done.
Yep.
If there's anything uplifting, anything, and I'm not saying this is a guarantee, this is just a hope. Maybe not a new hope. Lijop is apparently supposed to be resuming full training this week. When he was close to being ready to go before the setback.
Please.
Roughly, hopefully 3 to 4 weeks out from that. So my guess is, if we're lucky and things go to plan, early July. It would.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the problems that we are having, the very specific problems we're having in controlling matches and getting a hold of matches, you could see how Lai might solve those, right? It doesn't take, you don't have to, imagine Lai like with wings to imagine like what he does. He plays deep in midfield. He carries the ball. So against man pressure, like dribbling is good. If you can beat your guy, then you've beat your guy, and now you force them to break off of the man pressure. And Lai is very good at that, at taking the pass and surging into space, and that would help us a lot.
Mm-hmm. Ryan Williams with a rolled ankle, been so for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. I mean,
Stephen Carroll apparently will be pain monitoring after him limping off, which created a somber-like mood in the stands before the women's match on Saturday. It's we will see. Hopefully this was very beneficial for all of us. We got out a lot of things that we, needed to get out here. And hopefully we don't have to do this again for a while. Yeah. But let's transition, because Sean, you talked about what seems to be struggles in communication. Let's transfer over to maybe one of the most eloquent communicators that we have had the pleasure of interviewing. And we just always seems to be amazed at like the conversations that we're having. Dave Dwahey, Danny Evans, and the Detroit City FC women's side, who are 40% of the way done through this W League season. What in the absolute fuck has gone with the time? So the first matchup, which was 2 weeks ago on May 17th, while Adam was down dealing with 94-degree weather in Florida, was that whatever the hell it was that you were having? Sean Spence and I were dealing with potentially being blown away by ridiculous wind gusts at Holloway Field in Ann Arbor. And
I was riding the Avatar ride in Animal Kingdom.
Wow.
Do we have a description for what we saw? Do we have a similar description to what we saw that night in Ann Arbor, Sean, other than a now motivated as fuck Ann Arbor side this year?
I mean, Ann Arbor they are atop the division. They haven't lost yet. Yeah, 5 play. They've won 4, right?
Yep.
No, 4 plays.
Beat Toledo this past weekend.
I think that made them. I think that was their 4th match. I think they're 3-1-0.
Let me look here. I got the schedule up, I think, actually.
I think, or they have 13 points or 10?
13 now.
Okay. So yeah, they're 4-1-0. So they haven't lost. They are hoping to do the kind of season that we did last year and that Flint did the year before. They're hoping to kind of sprint to good results and then hold on. They do have to play us again.
June 21st
at their place. At our place. That's our last home match. And so I think that circle that, go to that one. If you're like, okay, I need to go to one match. Well, there's only two left, and that's the one. Go to Ann Arbor. They play
Yep.
Kalamazoo this weekend, right?
Yep.
Which Kalamazoo is the only team we haven't seen. So this is a true like old school Big Ten, like where we play all of them and then turn around and play all of them in the reverse fixture. So I love that we've got that kind of schedule. It's such a true league, uh, league pivot. Um,
Union and Macomb in match day two, which was so Ann Arbor
yeah,
2, Detroit City 1, match day 2, 0-0
right.
with Union and Macomb.
Hold on, we're going too fast. Okay, like so Ann Arbor. One of the things that I think that is not often understood, like we look at the seasons in like in hindsight and forget how many players aren't with the team at the beginning.
Right.
Really, until the third or fourth match, you're still adding a couple or three starters almost every game. And what really now Ann Arbor is much improved. They basically, as I wrote my piece about it, that they finally unlocked the recruit the players that stay in Ann Arbor over the summer, which they just kind of failed to do previously. Recruit the Wolverines. So they got a bunch of University of Michigan players, which you'd think would have been their bread and butter, but I think they just weren't perceived as playing at that level previously. And so basically, we've helped them recruit a better team. Um, and they were good. They're athletic. They don't create a ton of chances, but they have some really talented young kids, of
Yeah.
course. I mean, Ann Arbor has a lot of really, that's where Chloe Ricketts came from, I think. And uh, they had the 15-year-old who scored the winning goal. And um, it's one of those goals that like at the time I thought it was fluky. I still kind of, I wrote about it as if it was fluky. It did look a little fluky, but also this girl has scored a goal almost every match. And she's not starting. She's coming on for 20 minutes and getting a goal. And she got the winning goal against us. And it was a like kind of like a backing away. Like the cross came in and she was leaning away from goal and kind of heading it back across all the way back to the far post. And it like arced, maybe 5 yards above goal and came in and dropped into the far corner. Like completely unsavable by, you know, anybody, any human, like and like such not obviously not struck in a way that like either she's an incredible genius or that was very lucky because it was really windy.
Hmm.
What I'm saying is like it's not like we went like even without any starting defenders essentially. Um, it was pretty even against Ann Arbor. They got the goal at the end and we couldn't muster
Yeah.
anything against them.
Do
Um,
you think part of it also had to help because it was Ann Arbor's third match compared to our first?
Yeah, I think that was, but I really think the recruitment, like just the timing of the defenders showing up. Like I think we started Alley defend, and I assumed this was wrong. Like I looked at the lineup, on the USL site, and it had Alley defend starting at center back, at the left center back, um, in a two, right? Okay, so Alley defend, for people that don't know, is like 5'2", like she's small person, and so her starting at center back is like especially left center back where you're going to be guarding the near post for crosses coming in from right footers, right? So that's where that post is the one that is easy to get to and that you get to a lot. So that's concerning. Oh gosh, and we did actually turn out to play that way. That's how kind of rough it was, but um, she's very scrappy and smart, and they really covered for each other pretty well, and uh, we're able to hold Ann Arbor at bay. So then the Macomb match was the next one. Union, they brought their stars out. I mean, Villarreal started, um, and it was a very high powered. stalemate.
Yeah.
That both teams are pretty smart tactically. This is the first time I really felt like, except for the playoffs last year, that the women were going up against a team that had watched film on them. Like they came out in a 3-4-3, I think, which is their kind of normal setup, which I'm calling it 3-4-3. It's very similar to what our guys play, a couple of kind of narrow attacking midfielders, one striker. The wing backs is kind of positioned, their position like determines a lot of how your shape is. And then we play that very narrow kind of Brazilian 4-4-2. And there were constant adjustments. Danny was constantly moving people around. Danny and Dave were constantly, okay, let's you guys play more out on the wings. I would have liked to play that game over with Sophia Romine in the lineup because she wasn't here yet, right?
Woo! Yeah.
And she's just different gravy. Like she's you know, when you talk about women who are getting ready to go pro, and you see Sophie Romine playing, you're kind of like, how are we getting her for free right now?
Mhm.
Like what? Okay, because she is extraordinary. On the ball, like an incredible motor. I mean, she's somebody that, like, to me, if you're scouting for a modern professional team anywhere in the world, that is going to be like a remarkably useful player, because she can combine. She's very smart. She can, like, and her ability to put shots on goal from deep is phenomenal. So I don't know. I'm just a big
I was
fan of
also going to say too, being able with how she always moves around and presses, defend via attack, and keep defenders honest, and not settled.
Yeah.
Especially noticed that in this game on Saturday that we just had against Midwest United.
Yeah, it's funny because
Before,
oh, sorry. Yeah, I think of her as a high usage rate player. You know what I'm saying? That she's on the ball a lot, but she's not really on the ball a lot by receiving the ball from teammates that often. Like she takes the ball off of the other team a lot.
yeah,
She and she really, like, her stamina is fucking bananas. She is running hard. Like we just watched her play 2 matches, and she's running hard in the 70th minute of the second match, and she is doing demanding pressing work. This is not like jogging around the field. She is sprinting over and over and over again, and and then still has the juice to have creativity. I am a big fan. So then Sophia's first match back was the blowout of Toledo Villa, where or is it Toledo Villa? I don't know which way we're going with that. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I think we just like, whether it's the men or the women, I think we just like beating Toledo 5-0 or 6-0, because I think that's 3 times in a row we've done that.
I mean, okay, let me a couple things about Toledo. First of all, I thought their kits were really great. I liked that the piping on the shorts and the like. It just looked really tight. I fucking liked it.
Sean's talking about kits here. Normally we're the ones talking about kits.
I don't usually pay any attention. I was just like, man, those are all right. And they've got some players, like, I don't feel like they're like, they kind of got chewed up by us in a very specific way. They were trying to play out, and we had finally had Sophia Romine back. So we were in, like, press-a-loser, baby. Like, it was like we just pressed the living shit out of them and turned them over and got goals really early. And just seized control of the match. And it's rough on them. They're not that bad. And to be like 3-0 down, like 20 minutes in, and like you've barely crossed the midfield stripe. It's just like, oh my God, like we're getting killed the way you get killed, when you accidentally play up an age group against a good team. Like, oh shit, like, oh wow. And it was rough on them. But they're not
painful homecoming too, Toledo wise, for 3 former players: Dayton Waymer in goal, Ellie Poole, and Riley Clark.
Yeah. Yeah, um, you see why they stay home. I mean, it's a long way up here, to drive an hour each way for every practice and like, ugh. Um, and I'm glad that they've got a place at home now. It's got to be rough on Dayton to give up so many goals against us. She's played for us for a couple years,
Yeah.
and I yeah, I didn't feel great about how bad Toledo Villa obviously felt at the end of that match. I felt like our women were kind of like, hey, kind of very consoling at the end of the match. Like, hey, listen, it's fine. You're okay. That was good. You
Nothing
guys were good. Like,
nothing personal. It's just business.
yeah, yeah. Um, and then the final match is the Hannah Crum match, which was against Midwest United, and that was shaping up very much like the Macomb match. The first half was very much stalematey. They didn't create much. We didn't create much. Um, and I'm not sure what was said at halftime,
We took
um,
over.
but yeah, we just absolutely, just kind of that intangible kind of going up a step, right? Just played a little quicker, a little more intensity, a little more precision. That's a lot of things to improve all at once, right? So it was really great. Both goals were by Hannah Crum, the kind of opposite types of goals. One is a pure like junkyard dog Hannah Crum goal where like the ball kept it was like one of those like thought things where it's like now it's halfway to goal and now halfway again, and how many times will she have to strike it before it's finally in the goal? And like she just jammed it in basically,
Hockey playoff goal.
winning the ball over and over again, and just like, god damn it. um and then the second one was like maybe the goal of the year for the entire organization. Just
The site,
turn, huh?
yeah, the sight line I was going to say, I was with Michael Kitchen right to the corner of that. Like, so I'm dead on site for her where she's
Okay,
at.
yeah. So you see her
And I saw
like,
her turn that foot.
yeah, yeah. Well,
I see her take it and
you
the
see her
inside,
shoot
and I
that way
just
a
follow the
lot.
trajectory.
It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, she
And I,
kind of, you can see like when she takes that shot, she always kind of pivots her body as if she's kind of like slinging it a little bit, like
yeah.
she's slinging her leg. And one of the, Jarrett has kind of gotten stuck. Like as a commentator, you certain phrases will get stuck in your head and you'll say them a lot. And recently, his has been throws a foot at it, and that very much is that. It looks like Hannah is throwing a foot at it there.
Yeah.
And But we've seen her take that shot a lot. Like she kind of swivels into that space and bang.
Yeah.
And yeah, top corner, top bins, amazing. What a player! Like what a player. Of the, she obviously is not has like a little physical, like she's not super quick, right? And she's not very big. So
But she's got fight.
in the pro game, it's kind of like, well, you're going to get swarmed. You're going to get, but man, she finds a way to get it done. And she really is great on the ball. Like, just a person who seems to imbue the good things about football, right? The things you hope to cheer for.
Yeah.
So I just, Hannah Crum, God bless you.
Yeah. And I felt like also too, from like you and I were kind of noticing in Ann Arbor, I feel like when I see Hannah Crum play, I feel like she's an extension of Danny Evans on the field.
Yeah.
I just see similar energy. I see that similar
Oh, for
like
sure.
that competitive fire.
Yeah.
And that is great to see. I want to highlight also Kate Childers. Last couple of games, fantastic. Had a couple goals against Toledo.
Mm.
Rock solid in the center of midfield. And especially wild because I think Adam, you and I were talking about this briefly, and I want to get you in on the discussion too for this. 2-0 up in the 70th or so minute on Saturday. And we are making some changes. And the three subs that we put on are Faith Webster, who's been fantastic, who's been really solid so far, Kayla Addison, and Tatiana Mason, who's also been crushed, who's also was really, prominent too. Um, this is a good, if there's a time to start really get rolling and get the depth in this final run, especially when you're like three unbeaten, three clean sheets in a row, which is also really impressive, and two wins. Now's the time to do it and get everything going. But I thought that that was really cool. Adam.
Yeah, definitely. It's been interesting to see how David has been um, using Kayla uh, as that as that piece coming off the bench
Yeah,
in the
change up
second
forward.
half, which is in in a lot of sense almost unfair. I mean, you're sitting there getting destroyed by Sophia Romine in the first half,
Even
and
Ella
then
Kane on Saturday with the
yeah,
pace.
and then all of a sudden you've got to deal with Kayla Addison um, in the second half. I will say this: I am definitely relieved. It's kind of been a the contrast between, and I hate to bring the men's team back into this, but the contrast between the men's team and the women's team, just not just winning games, but
It's a godsend right now.
how they were able to adjust. Because I didn't see the Ann Arbor game at all. I did see Union Macomb game, and I wasn't impressed at all by that Union Macomb game. And when people were saying, how much better they looked
You
from
were
that Ann
concerned when
Arbor
you called me
game,
after the game. Let's
no,
be
yeah,
honest.
I was very very concerned. I was like, holy shit, like they looked better, and yeah, I was very concerned. No, mainly because there's so little room for error
Hmm.
in in the women's season right now. Just because, like, I mean, Sean, you mentioned it's like Big Ten football. I mean, maybe 10 years ago when you don't have a lot of room for error. I mean,
Right.
you lose one game and your season can be over with.
Yeah,
Not to say the season is over with for the women's side. I mean, there's still a lot of time left. Um, and even and David was even sure to convey that at the end of the match when we were doing our post game interview with him, Garrett, which will be up here shortly. um but I was impressed. I was impressed the adjustments that they made, especially against Midwest United coming out of that half, because it very much was a stalemate the first half, but what they were able to do coming out of that second half, they just completely dominated that match. And it was
Yeah.
such a welcome sight to see, given the utter bullshit that we've seen from the men's side these past few weeks. Being able to make those adjustments and completely dominate your opponent, something that they've been able to do against Midwest United these past few matches against them. And they proved that they were the better team. They're playing like they're the better team. They proved to be the better team, and that's such a refreshing thing to see. Yes, it certainly does help that Sophia Romine has been inserted into the lineup and that she's back. And yes, Sean, I agree. It is unfair in a sense to be able to get a player to her magnitude just out of the blue. Um, I
Um,
just I want to and it's especially important too, just because Lily Jekyll's been for the most part unavailable. She wasn't
right.
playing against Union Macomb, and she was in her and
She
Ava Landstrom were in North Carolina, I believe, at
right,
a nationals tournament. And I
right.
don't know if Lily's going to be back next week or whatnot, but it is such a welcome presence to have Sophia Romine in there, especially when one of our other dynamic players is unavailable. So
Um, I want to to me the improvement really is like a lot of it is just down to us getting our central defenders in. And so I kind of want to talk about the clean sheets. Like the last couple of matches we've had Acadia Murphy back. She I think blew out her knee and has been like you know off for a long time. And she looks fantastic, like really great. I don't understand, like, um, I just feel like she's a better, like, this is, I don't know if you're listening to this, I don't mean anything bad, but I grew up in Indiana and I got, I know what Ball State is, right? And I feel like, I don't feel like their women's program is as good as Katie Murphy is. Like, I would, if I was
Diamond in the
her,
rough,
like,
diamond in the
well,
cornfield.
I don't think she's even a diamond in the rough anymore. Like, her decision making is fucking spot on. She tackles like a 35-year-old Italian center back. Like, she just goes and stands on the ball. Just like, no, like, in a way that's really impressive, and like a lot of times not even very physical. Like, she'll just kind of like take it. But when she needs to be physical, she is, right. She'll body a chick. Um, and and then Ella Karolic has returned.
Yeah,
And like what an utterly classy central midfield, central, like calling her midfielder, but she passes and moves like a midfielder.
yeah.
She just covers enough ground that she can do all that and still handle her job. And I mean, those two are like, you know, like, you know, best 11 center backs potentially in the league, I think. Like, I mean, just really, really fucking good. Um, and behind them, we got Allison Lapointe, who,
I'm glad you're bringing this up.
because we lost Gabby. She's going to have a kid, and congrats. Uh, but she'd been really the center of the team emotionally in a lot of ways, and um, so losing her, you're getting a little bit okay. What are we going to get? And Allison is like, she, first of all, she looks the part in a way that is like I kind of find myself trying to be very judgmental about what I'm seeing from her, because I'm aware of the fact that she looks like a big time goalkeeper. Like, she's just long, right? She's long limbed. She got great, she gets off the ground really quickly. She's a, looks like a basketball player. And that to me is what goalkeepers look like. They look like small forwards. So yeah, I'm incredibly impressed with her. The save she made, like, I think it was maybe the 85th minute. Like, we were up 2-0. It's the one like time she had to lay out against Midwest United
Yeah,
was
on a
like,
transition play. Yeah, I
yeah,
remember this.
like yeah, they really put a decent shot on, and it was looked like, okay, that's going to creep in back post, and while we're 2-1, like, okay, I might have some pressure here, but no, like, she like laid out across the goal. Um,
Made it look easy.
it made it look really easy. And I'm sure there are keeper, coaches out there that are like, if her positioning was so on point, she wouldn't have needed to lay out that way or something. But like, okay, enough, nerds. Like, she's got 3 clean sheets in a row.
And if we're calling you nerds, that's something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you are top of Nerd Mountain, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no coming down off that, y'all.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say also too, I think it's refreshing too, and Adam, to go on like this joy of fresh air. This is fucked up stat time in a good way.
Okay.
Remember when Midwest United used to be the absolute bane of our existence in the women's side? Like, we never could beat them. We've had that 2023 year where we were summing our 2 worst games of the year against Midwest. Well, guess what? We've defeated them 3 straight times in a row and 2 consecutive clean sheets. Adam, I think you and I were talking, and maybe even Michael Kitchen with us on Saturday. Like, we were just in shock, and I love it. But it feels a little weird, but I love it nonetheless.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
I
thought
was.
saying that.
No, no, no. It's great. I mean, and I was telling you, I can remember. I remember one of their players, Stitch Curry, who used to just destroy us every single time that we played them. I mean, it was like, it reminded me of the Tiger. I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
Good. No, good. Was that an inside left? Like,
I think so. Yeah, I can't. God,
I
she was
just,
like a
like I got visions of this woman who just kind of ran between our left our right center back and our right back like all day, every day.
she was a firecracker, and I mean, she reminded me of like you know how like Billy Butler used to just destroy the Tigers
Oh,
every single time they play the Royals. She was that bane to
they had a left
of
foot center back that was painting 40-yard balls for fun against us. Number 3, I didn't get her name, but just fucking every single time it was like clockwork.
but yeah,
Yeah, I mean
it is refreshing too. And I
yeah,
remember when
these are good teams. Like
Mhm.
everybody's playing. Sorry, go ahead.
and I remember when Coach Sam too was saying, "Oh yeah, there's some turmoil over in with Midwest United. I think they're right for the picking this year, and that we still go out and lose to them." So yeah,
It's,
things are finally on the right track with when it comes to playing Midwest United finally, because I never thought we were gonna get over that hump, and we
Yeah.
finally are now. And it was a incredibly convincing win Saturday night against them. Even if the first half didn't show it, the second half certainly did.
Yeah, I think that probably if I'm picking out the most difficult match of the second half of the season, it's away at Midwest United because they have a lot of ability and they are going to be furious about being, blanked for 2 years by us. Yeah. Um, but it's also where if you go in there and big dog them, like you start to establish like a new shape of the relationship. Like,
yeah.
you know, this is going one direction.
Learn to love it, learn to live with it. Uh, Uh, Kalamazoo FC next up for the ladies this Saturday, June 7th. Kalamazoo is going to be coming in off short rest because they have only played 3 games so far. They will be at Toledo Villa on Wednesday, 2 days from now, the time of recording. So coming in on 3 days where we've had the weekend off. After that, a midweek matchup on the Detroit City website. It says that this match at Union FC Macomb will be at Swinehart Field in Utica, which I would love because that's my old high school. However, according to the W League website and also the Union FC Macomb site, they play at Romeo, which Detroit City, Detroit
Yeah.
City FC supporters love going to Romeo, right, Adam? Right, Sean?
I mean, I don't know. Are they going to like? Do they have a chairperson who can stand at the fence and like as we leave? I think that would be great. Just
7 p.m. on June 11th for those wondering.
just kind of
Romeo is some great DCFC lore.
right. Yeah, yeah. I think that will be a big match. The fact that it's a Wednesday match, I don't know.
We're off that weekend, and then we have Midwest away after, like the following
Right.
Wednesday after that.
I just know that some of the college players have minute restrictions on them, so they can like only play one match a week.
Right.
But I don't think that's true of like the women from Western, and I don't know if that applies to like Ella. It did before when she was with us, but I think she's graduated from Illinois. I don't know if she's going back for a post grad year or what. So. Yeah, I'm interested to see what lineups we can put out for 2 matches in 4 days because there is going to be some rotation just because we've got those restrictions in place.
Our next 4 matchups are Kalamazoo at home, Union Macomb away,
Mm.
Midwest away, Ann Arbor home.
Yeah, it's tough.
Season defining.
Yeah, and really, looking at the standings, like even if you stipulate that we beat Ann Arbor, let's say that, even then we would need to win 2 of the 3, like and like maybe just draw one. Like losing I think will be a problem. There are a lot of good teams here, and but I think the thing that's changed is that we are the kind of the bell cow now, and your status within the division is really determined by how many points you take off of us. So Ann Arbor beating us is what's elevated them to the top, right? Nobody else has been able to do that. So we're kind of now we're back to second.
Indian taking a point off of us on Memorial Day weekend.
Right. Right. So they're in the mix. And it does like, there's a season this short, it really just kind of comes down to winning at least 80 or 10 matches. If you want to go to the
Especially
playoffs.
this year. This year too, because of the Great Forest Division being created. Last year, for those that remembered in the Central Division, or the Central Conference to be exact, 3 division winners, best second place team. No longer the case. 4 division winners. That makes up Central Conference playoffs. So you got to win. You got to win the division. So
Like that, but like again, like I said, like this is a fixture list with no shenanigans. When I compare it to, like we talked about Big Ten football, to me it's like the old Big Ten basketball schedule, which was
oh yeah,
which was there were 10 teams and you played the other 9 in some configuration of home and away, and then you flipped around and played them again, like in the opposite configuration, and that was the league schedule, and that's exactly what we have here. And it's just fair, everybody gets a shot at everybody else at their place and at home, and I think that we are going to win this. I think that this team has kind of turned a corner, and will really begin. I think we've gone to another level. I think and we're about to demonstrate that to me. We talked about Kate Childers a little bit. Really, her slowly maturing into a really reliable 6 makes a big difference. And then the quality of the center backs. Wow. We really, Midwest got barely a sniff against us, really. We just shut them down. And they were able to play through us, play through the press a bit. We weren't constantly taking the ball off of them, but it got it got to the defense and it was like, nah, nah, and that is so heartening. And I just I'm very excited to see what happens on Saturday.
the magic of the Great Lakes Division, folks. So real quick for some before we get into closing, anything that the 3 of us want to announce, just some general club housekeeping news. Literally a minute ago, for those that are wondering, there is an owners meeting taking place tomorrow at Collect. Literally, the email just came through. It's a new location for I think original meeting, and they put in parentheses. Apologies for the late notice. 9301 Kirchhoff, 7 p.m. start time. And apparently, the first
after
round.
You're listening to this, or before you're listening to this, yeah, sorry.
God damn it. First round's on them. So if you missed out on that, that's your fucking fault.
Yeah.
The club's proposal was approved to begin demolition on the hospital site, which will be the home of the future stadium. Adam, timetable, August demo beginning?
Yeah, well, they got to pump. What did Sean say? Like the 1 to 2 million gallons of water out of the basement.
Similar to what Michigan Central was dealt with.
I thought it was like 30,000 square yards or something. Like some kind of ridiculous measurement. Like what?
Yeah, it's a lot of water, and it's not just it's not like you're draining the pool at the end of the season, because it's all
like poison water.
Yeah, it's a brown site, and it's been collecting there for God knows how long, and it's got to be treated. I don't know, but it's got to be treated. I mean, it's not like you just pump it out into the Detroit River or anything like that.
So if you are a supervillain with an aerial dispersal system, you can solve our problem while contributing to your nefarious plan. I'm just saying, just pump that poison water out of the hospital, no questions asked.
Yeah. And I know that they got some supporters got talking to Sean at the end of the women's match on Saturday, and
But we were like, come on, y'all, Sean's got to go home.
about some of the stadium stuff, and it's obviously costs and everything really kind of catches up to you, and they're throwing out numbers at what this could eventually cost, maybe at the end of, and I'm not going to mention it because I don't want to get a number like that wrong. But I guess something like that doesn't surprise me considering, just how big this project has become, because you're always
Yeah.
hearing about the club, acquiring more land. And maybe that's what we got. Maybe that's what we ended up getting from the Oakland Roots for Maury Donor, is the opportunity to buy more parcels of land surrounding Southwest Detroit Hospital. Yeah, we need those. We need these. We need these last few parcels to finish. To be able to build
their
that.
manager objected to the land deal, and they jettisoned him. They're like, "Fuck you, we're borrowing Benny Failhaber, suck it."
So Maury doesn't want to be here anymore. Let's sell him to the Roots. Get more cash on hand so we can get these last few parcels. I'm just surprised at how. And again, I'm not in Sean Mann's shoes or anything like that. I don't know what he's having to deal with.
Before saying this, and while you're listening to this.
Yes, knock on wood, because it just seems it's really pretty wild how smooth this has gone.
Here we
go. How there hasn't been, it doesn't seem like there's been that many objections from the city itself, and because you always hear about some type of hurdle, preventing something from happening. And you would think it would happen to a team like Detroit City, because they're not the Red Wings. This isn't Chris Ilitch, who is, able to buy pieces of land in and around Detroit for $1. And, just sit there and suck, the city dry and taxpayer money dry to, build his shiny new stadium without, living up to the promises of building up the district of Detroit at the same time. So I am somewhat shocked again how there hasn't been many hurdles for the team to cross, at least publicly.
What? Real quick, Adam. Because you talked about
my mic wasn't on. I was like, oh, wait.
I was going to say, Adam, you talked about Chris Ilitch. I just got a brief note here because I got Tigers White Sox right now. Kerry Carpenter's just hit 3 home runs, so apparently we need to keep talking. Granted, they're playing the White Sox, so beating the White Sox is like the women beating Midwest United. It brings me fucking joy. Continue.
and yes, Chris Ilitch sucks. So yeah, I mean that.
Well, I think that like
our sportscast bit carries over.
I can cast a little light on, I think, the talents of the guys that are making this happen, right? And like we're talking about Sean and Todd here. So Sean Mann is the CEO. If people are kind of, Sean Mann is the CEO. Todd Kropp is the COO of Detroit City. They are 2 of the original 5 owners, along with Dave Dwahey and Alex. Alex Wright. I'm sorry. I don't think I said his last name. So, there are times in conversations with old time supporters or people that Sean's past career as a lobbyist will get thrown around, usually with kind of a disdainful vibe, right? Nobody likes to think about people who are, shadowily and, influencing government, even when they're, the good guy influencers, right? But that background, I think, is why you're not seeing a huge number of political or procedural hurdles being thrown in the way, because Sean knows how to navigate these things, and he knows when he doesn't know how to navigate things, and is very good about bringing people around who do. And
it's Sean's time to shine.
He was moored for this.
The thing that's hard about it, like if I'm Sean, right? If I'm a different Sean.
Okay.
If I'm Sean Mann. Sorry. If I'm Sean Mann, who am I?
Which Sean's on first?
Shit. I forget which Sean I am. it would be easy, I think, if I'm Sean Mann, to feel that no one like that the things that you are doing are always kind of invisible to the public. Like, the only time you're really visible to the public is when you go stand up and say something. And the fact that you feel sort of awkward about that, maybe you worry that like people view you with less respect than you should have, right? Because sometimes you're awkward in public or whatever. And to me, like this, I want us to notice the presence
Hi,
of it.
it's me. Awkward here.
I want us to notice the presence of an absence, which is the absence of this turmoil that one sees, and it's because Sean knows how to identify like leaders in communities and get them to sign on to this vision with him, and then when it comes to execution, you need someone who is extremely detail oriented and clear eyed and kind of um, like like tireless in their pursuit of like exactitude, and that is Todd Kropp. Like he is a details guy. Uh he's exactly the guy you want dealing with contractors and with the kind of shysters and grifters that you get when you go into large scale construction in Detroit or really any city, but Detroit's all we're
You're
talking
dealing with
about.
guys like Donald Trump in that sense.
You're dealing well, and a lot of the contractors are like they're not crooked, but they are looking for an opportunity to make a little more money, right? So
Give
if
us
you
your fucking money, essentially.
well, but what I'm
Yeah.
what like what it's more like, they'll cut a little corner. They'll use a lower grade product than you actually paid for. Um, and see, like it's up to you to notice, basically. And if you their kind of self-justification is like, look, if you don't even know enough to know that that's grade 3 pipe or whatever the fuck, you can't work on a Langstrom, a sprinkler head with a Langstrom 7-inch gangly wrench. It's like, okay, they just get really technical, and try to make it hard for you. And Todd doesn't flinch from that at all. He just keeps asking questions. He's like, okay, so explain that to me. All right, what does that mean? Um, like he is a human ISO 9002 certification program. And so, like that's the secret sauce, right? The combination of those talents is why the city are different than in their outcomes than other equally like right thinking and hopeful and emotionally supported clubs. So like this is me giving them their flowers and hopefully helping everybody else understand why what we have is special on a personal level too. It's not just like a special idea. It's a special idea being personified by special people who are giving of themselves and their talent to make it happen. So
It's why the
that's
stadium project hasn't been Indy 11 yet.
right. Exactly.
And
Like,
to
I mean,
further note,
we're getting boosted by the city now. The city's like, fuck
yep,
yeah, Detroit City. Like, okay, really?
yeah.
Am I dreaming?
I was about to bring that up. City Council approving a 5.9 brownfield plan million, $5.9 million, by the way. Brownfield plan that would reimburse the club for the demolition costs over a 21-year period. So far, that has been the only public subsidy requested for this project. So,
Yeah, and
um,
I don't have a problem with that. Like those are
yeah.
public funds that have been set aside for clearing these brownfields, and it costs a lot of money. Probably costs about $5.9 million.
Hmm.
I don't. This is not charity. This is like, you're going to clean up the poison for us, so here's the money it takes to do that.
Yeah.
um,
And I may
and
be wrong too, but all the risk in that isn't on the city, it's on the club itself. Because if they undertake this and it goes belly up, then
Right. If they failed
Um,
mitigation,
yes.
I mean, there are ways this could fuck us. But this is the only way forward, right? This is the way to do a good thing without doing a lot of bad things. And the only way to do it is to do the very hard good thing as well. I quote that the and now I've completely lost the title of the poem, but the one about building the temple, right? This is building the temple. Like we're doing it now. Um,
I'm actually thinking about that. Lions GM Brad Holmes talked about something. He did a commencement at his alma mater, North Carolina A&T, and he talked about what you just said is making me think of it. Let me bring it up here, because it's embracing. What's the word I'm looking for here? As I'm checking our group chat for it, life is hard. Choose your hard, and do the right hard. Do the hard thing. That's the right thing. I think that's what reminded me of that, Sean.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a good way to think about things. I think that we also have to like you know remain cognizant of the fact that that people face obstacles that keep them from making choices that we don't necessarily understand.
Right.
I'm always a little leery of public, sentiments that are about like your individual responsibility and choose wisely and make your choices. It's always like, well, okay. I mean, I get that that we gotta think of it that way, but I think that we need to also recognize that there are a lot of really viable choices that are forejoined for almost all of us, because of circumstances far beyond our control, and that's the system that we live within and under, and acknowledging that is not like you know castrating yourself. It's it's acknowledging that you're going to get kicked in the balls, but every so often, and it's all right to say that hurts.
Yeah. Speaking about good effort, there is one other thing though about good efforts, and I think we're doing so well with the segues and transitions tonight. I fucking love it. Adam, it's June. A magical thing is happening now in June. Why don't we talk about it?
Pride Month.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. Pride Month is see, I wish Jam was here on the podcast tonight to talk about it because she's better versed in it than I am, but it has gotten off to a good start. And I believe that we've already gotten over that $1,000 mark
Let me
so
see what I
far.
was looking at earlier.
And again, it's June 2nd. So
What for goal?
yeah, well, yes, per goal. Yes. And obviously those goals start to count this coming weekend, when the women play Kalamazoo and the men are on the road taking on the Riverhounds. So again, if there's any motivation out there for the men to get their shit together, it is
Yeah.
this Saturday because the goals do count. And yes, we are counting both home and away goals this year just because of the lack of home matches.
Do
The
it for the
women,
Ruth Ellis Center.
yes, that we have for the month of June, and there's a bunch of stuff coming up as well. Yes, it all goes to benefit the Ruth Ellis Center, and their amazing work to help um, to support at-risk LGBTQ plus youth in the Detroit area. So, yeah,
One
it's
thousand
obviously
one hundred twenty-seven dollars and 69 cents pledged per goal at this moment.
there you go.
Nice.
It's
Hey,
gonna
hey,
and it's gonna keep on going up as
yeah.
well too, just
Question:
like it always does.
Is it true that this year we're doing every goal scored during the month and not just the home goals?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because we had like no home games. Like we played
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
four home
And
matches
yeah, that's
out of like what 12 matches. Yeah.
yeah, and that's exactly the reason too. And the good thing about that is you can adjust your pledges, at the beginning of the month and at the end of the month as well. If
Yeah.
you know, because and every little bit helps. I mean, if you sit there and pledge $20 a goal at the beginning of June, and it turns out that they went and scored, an insane amount of goals
Yeah.
by the
You're
The
not
time
women
June
did
like,
wraps
last
up.
last
yeah.
year.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
like
you can adjust that number.
$400.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
you could adjust that number down. And
Yeah.
it's
Was it
certainly
like
understandable to
was
do
it
something
two
like
years
that.
ago that we like scored no goals basically? Like everyone had to adjust it up. Like, okay, I guess I'm going
Yeah,
$20 a
yeah,
goal.
absolutely.
Or
Yeah, and it's
3 years ago for sure. 2 years ago a little bit, yeah.
and that's the beauty of it too, is being able to do that because every little bit helps. Um, Especially in the world that we are living in now, um, with how things are and how it seems like we've taken, huge steps backwards when it comes to how accepting this society is um, towards the LGBTQ community, which it's unfortunate to see, which is, and again, why this year's efforts are even more important than they've ever been. So yeah,
I
definitely,
also
prideraiser.org. You'll be able to see the Detroit Pride Raiser efforts and the link from there. You can make a pledge or you can make a one-time donation. And throughout the rest of the month of June, for the home matches, there will be a Pride Raiser tent in the main concourse area of Keyworth Stadium, where you can go get information on the Ruth Ellis Center. You can get information on the Pride Raiser efforts itself. You could donate money there, and I know that there's going to be uh, some other great things, projects, and everything relating to Pride Raiser that are going to be coming up throughout the month. One of those being is we're going to be doing another tie dye event as well. So, and it's not just going to be shirts. You can bring whatever to come tie dye as long as you're also bringing a pledge or a donation for the Ruth Ellis Center while you're doing that. So we'll have more information up on that as well. I think some information is up already. You can go and check out the NGS Cares uh, Instagram and all of our other social media platforms for information on that. So yeah, it's great. It's an important cause. It's an important initiative. It's the biggest initiative. And if you listen to the Pride Raiser episode from a couple of weeks ago, the cool thing about this is one of those projects that is there's a lot of good cohesion with the club on this one because in other senses too, it's always been kind of working with the club on anything has always been one of those kind of things that you try to avoid, um except for something like this is something that is done in great collaboration with the club itself, and it's really a cool thing to see.
And that episode, as Adam mentioned, with Alex Wright and Megan Abella of Detroit City FC, front office, and Jam Johnson, channel 451. And on there, that is out where you can check it out wherever you check your podcast out, either in video or audio form. Thank you to everyone also for joining on that one. And yeah, like I said, is a great time to be able to do some good. So if you haven't yet, prideraiser.org. And as Adam mentioned on there too, and we'll include links for what folks to access on here. Gentlemen, do we have anything else we want to touch base on before we slowly wrap this up?
Sean?
Sean?
What is my
Yeah, there you go. I hear you. I
hello?
did.
Was this
Yeah.
working now? Is it low?
Yeah.
Hello? Now?
Testing? Testing?
Yeah, you're good. We hear
Yeah.
you.
Now?
We
Can
hear
I?
you.
Oh my God. Okay, sorry. I forgot what I was about to say. Well, okay, so what happens is if I'm making the mute signal is the same is on the button,
Mm.
and if I'm making any sound, that also is lit. So like when I'm talking and I'm looking at it, I'm like I can't really tell if it's on or off. I'm like, hello, okay, shit, it's just a red light. Like it means either it's off or I'm talking. So yeah, that's how that happens, is what I'm saying. Um, I really hope that the men can pull it together, and I hope that everybody can, continue contributing to Detroit City being not just an amazing story about a lower league soccer team who, like kept kept succeeding and kept striving upward despite the system being literally designed to disallow it. But also a place that's done it with integrity and by creating a really healthy culture that that moves things forward in a way that is like pro-social and creates community and society rather than fracturing it for profit. And I hope we can continue to be that kind of place. So,
Adam, what about you, bud?
Yeah, just real quick, just kind of mentioning something that Sean was alluding to earlier on, talking about Detroit City FC being the bell cow of the of this division. And I completely agree with them.
Women's. Yep.
Yes, the women's side. Completely agree with them, and I think that this is, and I'm going to get a little arrogant too as a Detroit City FC supporter because I think that's
let's go
100%
there.
true. Yeah, I think it's 100% true. And I think and it's something that the women's side especially needed to achieve just because Detroit City FC, I think generally speaking, if it hasn't already, it is the biggest name in soccer in the state of Michigan. Um, I mean, again, I'm not as well versed in the youth sports or anything like youth soccer or anything like that. I mean, if to talk to Jaime or BJ and whoever else. Um, but the way I look at it, if you're a youth player out there, eventually it's going to get to the point where you want to play for Detroit City FC. You want to play in that system. And when I look at some of these other teams in this division, yes, Union Macomb is the other standout-ish because it's of their Nationals affiliation. But are we really going to be using Midwest United, Ann Arbor, Kalamazoo as any type of measuring stick when it comes to success um, in the state of Michigan for soccer itself? Um, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it'll be completely out of the question in the next few years if it isn't already there now. Um, I just think name recognition alone, it's a no-brainer to me.
Well, I think
And
we haven't even started to see the traction from being like kind of on free TV statewide for
exactly,
a couple years now. Like you're just going to start to see like people supporting city like all over the place and kind of doing
yes,
Michigan's team stuff. Because
yeah,
who else are you going to support? Like okay, on the women's side, like all right, your cousin's playing for Midwest United. She's real good. She's going to be a pro someday. She's from Grand Rapids. She's playing for Midwest United, but you're not like, buying Midwest United gear for Christmas,
no, no,
um, and yeah, I think it's one of those things that's going to kind of just keep going and going.
I remember you too, and I think this is a Tunnel Talk episode, Sean, that you were a guest on, and you were talking about City's presence within USL Championship, and maybe USL in general too. And Detroit City FC kind of being, the cool option when it came to advertisers out there. And it was like, okay, who's the money going to eventually gravitate towards? Is it going to be, a club like Hartford Athletic, who, is okay, not cool at all, or is it going to be towards Detroit City FC, who have,
Right.
really made this name for themselves? And I see that too, as in many ways, as when it comes to the women's team in this division. Um, is it cool to play for Midwest United? Is it cool to play for Ann Arbor? Yes, Ann Arbor is good this year, but we've kind of seen how, okay, they're good one year, they're shitty the other year, they're, decent this year.
Right.
Um, I think Detroit City is at a point right now where they're always going to be at the very, very least decent, and that's because of who they are. Um, it's like the University of Michigan in a sense.
Mhm.
University of Michigan is always going to be able to recruit just because of that name recognition. I think Detroit City FC, if they're not already there, they're definitely going to be there at some point because it's going to be cool. It's going to be that's what you're going to want to get to as a youth player. I need to get to Detroit City FC. I need to get into that program because Midwest United isn't going to get me anywhere. Ann
Well,
Arbor
like
isn't going to get me anywhere.
if you're a kid with talent and somewhere in the region at all, it feels like kind of a no-brainer to say,
Yeah.
well, there is a team, within half an hour that is on national TV a few times a year. Like,
Yes.
and so, like, let's see if I can, just get my foot in that way. And yeah, I mean, the thing that's difficult is that um, the American talent pool is very wide but kind of shallow. You've got a huge, huge, huge number of okay guys and women, and a much smaller percentage of elite players than you would have in a real soccer nation of a comparable size. Um, and that's just the truth of it. We don't have enough coaches, we don't have enough coaching networks, we don't have enough local clubs to produce the volume of players that you'd think a country of 360 million people would produce, right? Um, so that is the difficult thing for the professional teams in the interim, is that they still have to sweeten the pool constantly. Um, and the work of developing your own pool seems sort of like way harder than it is like in your home country. It was in your home country if you're from a soccer, if you were from Argentina or Brazil or England or Spain or France or Germany or literally almost anywhere else. Um, uh, it looks completely different, and the clubs don't have much power, and there's these kind of middlemen shark clubs that are the kind of de facto deal makers at youth football level. And I don't know if the Nationals are one of those, but I wouldn't be surprised to hear it. And like, I'm sure like there are good clubs that are pay to play clubs, but the the financial necessity of pay to play is created by travel football, right? And that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Um,
No,
so
it
here,
doesn't.
Almost
here,
as
here we
expensive, if
are.
not more expensive than hockey,
Right.
which is wild.
Well, and at some level, it feels to me like the professional clubs need to crack that because they're like, look, man, you're fucking up our player development here. Like, making these kids play 12 matches a weekend, and they're like pacing themselves and shit, and like completely burned out on football after playing like a million meaningless scrimmages against other kids who are similarly despairing. Like you're turning like a joyous game into like a Kafkaesque like existential nightmare for children. Like, grats, capitalism. You did it again. Um, you made a few people a lot of money, and usually the worst people, right? Like, fucking infuriating. Anyway,
I mean, then
at some point, I'm ranting. At some point, the professional clubs, I think, are going to need to put their foot in and say, listen, like you like they need to like go on the offensive on a PR offensive and say, listen, you do not need to travel your kids don't need to compete for college scholarships by being on travel teams when they're 12, you know. You don't like unless your kid is a super elite talent, they don't need to travel at all. And then let U.S. Soccer come and tap you on the shoulder, right? But like the idea that like the parents are driving this, which they are, is so frustrating and infuriating. It feels um like a spiritual attack on the true taproot of the game. Right? The joy and spontaneity of football is like being sort of like dementored out of children. And and then we're like, why aren't we producing more elite talents? Like because they all like played this for 3 years and associate it with like emotional trauma. Grats. Um, I I hope that we are building something different here at Detroit City. I think that we are trying to, but I know that it is difficult to recruit. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You're not playing at that level because you don't recruit those players, so you don't play at that level, so you don't recruit those players, so you don't play at that level, so you did what the fuck. And so the only true solution is to get them when they're like 8 and have them so indoctrinated that they know that's not true, that they can see through it and go, okay, well, I don't need to travel to get better. I need to play against a mix of people all the time. I need to have matches that mean something, and then training that is interesting and teaches me lessons that I then explore during the match. That I approach football as a way to express myself and experience community and and sometimes the joy of winning. Um,
I hope
uh,
Lily's listening because we're going to need her for that Ann Arbor match here in a couple of weeks.
June
yeah,
21st, 7 p.m.
yeah. I mean, um, well, I wasn't really talking to I wasn't thinking about Lily there, but I'm kind of just generally about like the state of football in America, and like um, I think that like old nerds like me who began thinking about this in like 1998, like, okay, how are we going to develop great players, and how are we going to, oh wow, we have no infrastructure whatsoever. Our professional teams do not have stadiums or training facilities. Like, what the fuck? Our Division 1 teams had less facilities than like, a League 2 team. Um, and uh, so how are we going to change this? But really, you didn't foresee that the facilities would ever get ahead of the player production, but it really has gotten to that point where we're building stadiums for teams that are having a hard time using homegrown talent to produce results. Um, and um, that is a long-term goal, I think, for this. That's one of those trees that we're planting that we're not going to get a cent under, right? But I hope that like youngins uh, who aren't listening to this, of course, this is a bunch of old men bloviating, will appreciate it when the day comes.
I am going to continue shout outs. Already mentioned shout outs. So Alex Wright, Megan Abella for joining us for the Pride Raiser episode, David Dwayhe, Danny Evans for the W League preview episode. It's great to be able to have the ability to have these special episode recordings with people we've recorded, like with Dave before, also Sean Mann. Just to be able to have that ability is cool. Appreciative of the fact of that. go out and see this women's team if you haven't yet. I give a shout out especially to the West Grandstand, which is the non-supporters grandstand, because I think the turnout for those games, from what I've been seeing slowly of that, even in person Saturday, has been great. Two more opportunities to see the women at Keyword Stadium this year. Away days that are very, very drivable in the Southeast Michigan area, or if you're down in, down closer to Toledo or even Midwestern Kansas, there's plenty of. It's not a you know painful traffic congestion. So
it's a day trip.
yeah. And I often, as much as we talk about how tight this Great Lakes division is this year, at the same time, it's kind of also fun to watch too, see it unfold. So I just hope, may the up and up continue to go onward. And I think really that's about it. Shout out also, like I said, I told it to Adam earlier, shout out also to the 451 Tunnel Talk crew. Go check out their stuff if you haven't yet. Getting some great few episodes on there. Alan's gonna need all. Is Alan suspended this week? Did we decide that? Because Alan was at Maine on Saturday, Portland. He almost led the I Will Sing for You City chant before Hearts of Pine scored the opener. So I don't know. Adam, did we decide that, or is that still TBD?
I'm pushing for suspension just because.
So he brought terrible vibes, and
he brought terrible. Yes, he brought terrible vibes, and
he was on the plane with the team, Sean.
Personally responsible then.
Exactly. He was on the plane with the team, and he was there. He's been. It seems like Alan. One constant with Alan is it seems like he's always on these road trips where they get pummeled. So I do. I think it's time for Alan, like Michael Bryant, to finally get rotated out of the of the start here. Just he needs a break. He needs a break.
Also, great segue.
We're going to give him time to recharge his batteries.
Speaking of things that need to take a break, yes, it's been a month since this has almost happened, but we still got to bring it up. The taking bus trips to away matches needs to be put on the motherfucking kibosh. God damn it!
I think we've settled. I think that's settled praxis now, right? We agreed upon it, went back on it, and now realize the original agreement was the best idea.
We had a special. I get the special circumstances. Shout out to the 600 or so that made it to the U.S. Open Cup match. But note that when the club's extended highlight video is only 4 minutes long,
extended, right?
That tells you that it was not a good trip, and I associate that with bus trip vibes.
It's like they're as tired as we are.
Yeah.
Like, we're just like, yeah, guys. Oh, God, we got to drive home. Oh, that's going to suck so much.
I'm so glad I was at AEW that night, and I only watched that short highlight video. But yeah, so I think, that's all I kind of got on there. It's great to be able to do this again with these gentlemen, too. So, yeah, it's made the good times continue. Sean Spence, cat pics. I see plenty of great cat stuff. Where should people send that cat stuff to?
Cat stuff, if you're sending it directly to me, is my mic on? It is on. Okay.
Yep, your mic's on.
I did. The red light is okay. So cat pics, I'm shield chafing kind of everywhere. It's SEYLD, SEEAFING. That's like, Twitter and Blue Sky and my email address at Gmail and a lot of other places. So yeah. And Words About Shapes is the blog. It's the patreon.com/wordsaboushapes, all one word. $3
a month.
Yeah, $3 American. That is which is I think like $1.80 compared to the $3 that it cost back in 2020. So wow, it's getting to be a better deal every day.
Adam, where can folks check you out as well as all of our content across all of the majors TV?
Check me out at TMS Next Adam on Twitter and Blue Sky, and you can find all the majors content direct at themajorsports.com for the web, youtube.com/themajorstv on YouTube, and at TMS Next Detroit on Twitter, Facebook, Blue Sky, Reds, TikTok, all those different social media platforms. And remember to like and subscribe on any major podcasting platform, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Leave a 5-star review and help that algorithm. Help us move up in that algorithm.
Indeed. Find me personally, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, at GM Comets, on Blue Sky at gmcomets.bsky.social. And you can find channel 451 on YouTube at channel 451. Type 451 as in 451 as in actual time, 451 DET on both Twitter and Blue Sky. So we are back. Well, no timetable. We'll try to be back next week, if not, maybe a little after. It's summertime, life is busy. We'll see how it goes. And, we thank everybody for checking out this episode here. For Sean Spence, for Adam Hernandez, Garret Comets. It's been fun. May it continue.